I will never marry, said Queen Elizabeth at the age of 8. Why Queen Elizabeth never married? Have you ever thought that the age of Elizabethans of 1558 to 1603 was not the age of rising feminism, where a woman could think about being a virgin forever? When Elizabeth decided not to marry, what were the reasons? When you read Elizabethan literature, do you focus on the famous explorers and the histories they have made, the records they have made? And how many of you know that Shakespeare was Marlowe, or we can say that it was Marlowe who was Shakespeare? Literature has become my life, and I love going in the depth of it with my curious nature and to search things so that I can update all my students with latest informations. In the very first point, we're going to talk about why Queen Elizabeth did not marry. We all know that in 1558 to 1603, Queen Elizabeth was the Queen of England, and her mother Anne Boleyn and her stepmother, they both were killed for treason by her father. Why Queen Elizabeth denied the proposal of Philip II, the King of Spain, where her own Swiss sister, Princess Mary, Queen Mary, was married to Spain, the Spanish king. So we're going to talk about this thing here. The very first thing is Queen Elizabeth had a tutor known as Roger Ascham. Roger Ascham is not only a tutor, a famous tutor of Elizabethan, he is also known for his famous work Toxophilus and Schoolmaster. Roger Ascham had a great impact on the mind of Queen Elizabeth, and it is believed that he taught her to be an absolute queen only by following celibacy, means not marrying anyone. And in fact, as you can see it on your screen, Elizabeth herself talked to Lord Leicester and said this thing. She accepted, I will have but one mistress here and no master. Means, so even if I'm forced to go for a sexual act, I'll prefer a woman, a mistress, but I will never have a husband who can master me. So having the diplomatic attitude and very strong identity, she did not marry anyone because she didn't want to compromise her solidarity, her absolute status of the queen. Second opinion. According to the second opinion, it is believed that the Admiral Robert Seymour, he molested her at the age of 14, and Queen Elizabeth, because of that molestation, was scared of any sexual act, and this was the reason that she didn't want to get married. Then we have more opinions, and it is believed that her own mother, Anne Boleyn, and stepmother, as they were killed by the father, Elizabeth lost her faith in married relationships. More and more opinion, it is believed that Queen Elizabeth saw some deaths during childbirth in her own family and was scared of childbirth. So all of these things, with the suggestions of Roger Ascham, maybe the molestation concept, maybe the family issues, seeing all these things, Queen Elizabeth decided to say a big no to the marriage proposal of Philip II. When Philip II, he got rejected in the very first marriage proposal, he sent another marriage proposal and it was neglected again, and this was the reason Philip II got infuriated. वो बहुत गुस्से में आ गया. And as we all know through a Bollywood song, that when I teach my student, I always take this reference so that my student can remember. So if you have gone through the song, just a comic relief, I'm taking a reference from a Bollywood song for the sake of comic relief. Proposal of Philip Sidney was denied by Queen Elizabeth, and Philip Sidney was singing the song ठुकरा के मेरा प्यार मेरा इंतकाम देखेगी. So it's a funny thing, just don't take it seriously and never do it. But yes, Philip II attacked England in 1588, and that battle is known as the Battle of Spanish Armada. As you all know, that Spanish Armada, A-R-M-A-D-A, Armada, it meant the invincible battle fleet, the naval ships. Invincible, like something which cannot be defeated. It was very obvious that Queen Elizabeth and England will surrender, but Queen Elizabeth went to meet her soldiers. She motivated them and delivered one of the best speeches, one of my favorite speech. She said, "Though my hands are short, my limbs are weak, I'll fight with my brothers, shoulder to shoulder." And she said in the same speech that God is with us, God will favor England, God will favor Mother Britannia, and by the evening, victory will be ours. As we all know that a sudden, unusual storm appeared and swept away the Spanish battle fleet, and England became victorious. So we know this concept, why Elizabeth never married, what happened. Still, if you want to go in the depth and ask me some more questions, you can contact me on given numbers, because we are going to talk about the second most important thing of Elizabethans. What is the relation between William Shakespeare and Marlowe? Do you know that the death of Marlowe on 30th May 1593 was known as one of the sudden incident, and most of the philosophers, writers believe that it was a fake attempt, a feigned death. Marlowe pretended to be dead. So we all know that Marlowe died, Shakespeare started writing comedies, but how all of a sudden Shakespeare emerged when people had no idea about Shakespeare? Robert Greene just had one idea of Shakespeare and he criticized Shakespeare, calling him an upstart crow. This video is only for those who love literature and believe in actual knowledge, going in the depth of these things. So, the University Wits writer Robert Greene, he found Shakespeare and wrote that Shakespeare was an upstart crow beautified on our feathers, and he wrote this thing in his famous work Groatsworth of Wit. Shakespeare was writing comedies. Marlowe never wrote a comedy. Why Marlowe feigned his own death? Why he was forced to fake his death? And why his body was never recovered? So I'll tell you the most important thing here. And remember, it is Vineet Pandey who is telling you. So let's unlock the secret. There was a pamphlet circulated hand to hand which called Jesus Christ gay. So a pamphlet written by some anonymous writer which mentioned Jesus Christ as a gay person, a person involved in homosexuality. And when Queen Elizabeth found it against the religion, found it against the sentiments of the followers, the Christians, she sanctioned the death punishment for the person who wrote this. And then Thomas Kidd was arrested. So please write it again, mention this thing. Thomas Kidd was arrested. When Thomas Kidd was arrested, he was staying in the same inn with Marlowe, and Thomas Kidd revealed the truth that it is Marlowe who is an atheist and he has written the pamphlet. This case actually was taken in the custody, and it was presented in front of the Privy Council, and Privy Council of Queen Elizabeth sanctioned the death punishment for Marlowe. So it is believed to avoid the death punishment, Marlowe pretended a stupid fight, that who will pay the bill. Three friends eating and dining together, drinking together, started fighting on the question of paying the bill, and Ingram Fringer, William Beardsley and Marlowe, they fought, where Beardsley was killed by Marlowe and Ingram Fringer stabbed Marlowe in his forehead. His body was never recovered, and people started believing that Marlowe is dead. Okay, so Marlowe is dead. How all of a sudden, within a week, just 1 week, Shakespeare can publish his Venus and Adonis and become a known figure? Why there is no proper portrait of Shakespeare, and the available portraits are very much similar like Marlowe? Why Marlowe never wrote any comedy, never went for any disguise, and Shakespeare wrote comedies, and most of the Shakespearean comedies have disguised characters. In fact, I must tell you that in Elizabethans, Shakespeare is one of the strongest writers, the pillars, the one who has used disguised characters. Disguised characters means Shakespeare was giving us a message. How many of you know Shakespeare was married to Anne Hathaway, 8 years elder to him? Maybe she was already married to Marlowe. He just married his wife again to show. And second thing, we all know Shakespeare had a mistress, a dark lady. So what if being Shakespeare he married someone else? What if being Marlowe he was continuing his affair with his widow, so-called widow? That's how Shakespeare has 2 different women in his life. And you all know that Shakespeare has written 2 sonnets which were lost and published separately in the magazine known as Passionate Pilgrim, edited by William Jaggard, And these two sonnets are When My Love Swears and Two Loves I Have of Comfort. In short, Shakespeare was giving us a message. Shakespeare is talking about his personal life. And then I bet a lot of students have no idea about William D. Evenant, a famous writer, a poet laureate, restoration का writer है. And William D. Evenant, whenever he would drink and get high, जब वो शराब पी के एकदम high हो जाता था, he would always confess that he is the bastard son of Shakespeare. And William D. Evenant at the age of 11 wrote a letter in remembrance to Master Shakespeare. Can we find a relation in between? Shakespeare's signature style and Christopher Marlowe's signature style, S is very much common. The available photograph of Marlowe and the believed photograph of Shakespeare, they have same eyes gap. Moreover, Shakespeare and Marlowe, they gave heights to blank verse and the handling of the content is very same. The way Marlowe wrote Edward II, Shakespeare has imitated ditto style in Richard II. In fact, Marlowe and Shakespeare have used same lines. The famous line, "Whoever loved, if loved not at first sight," appears in Marlowe's lyrics, in Shakespeare's lyrics. And remember this, friend, I'll be telling you something very different. I'm not the common YouTubers who take cuts and then read things and then edit it and relate. I'm continuously speaking in front of the camera without taking any cuts because I'm just like teaching you. So this is the reason I'm getting some kind of, paining. It's like I want water. So in short, what I mean to say is, remember, when you study, have knowledge so that you can speak without any trouble. So Shakespeare Marlowe controversy with all these things, and I'm going to tell you something very funny. Emily Bacon, a famous writer of America, she came with a very different theory known as Baconian review. In Baconian review, Emily Bacon said that it was neither Marlowe nor Shakespeare. ना कोई Marlowe है, ना कोई Shakespeare है. It is Francis Bacon. And Francis Bacon, as we all know, was born in 1561, died in 1626. Francis Bacon was actually capable of doing these things. So maybe it was Bacon who was experimenting writing tragedy, being Shakespeare writing comedy and lyrics, and being Francis Bacon, he was experimenting a new style known as essays. Along with these things, remember this, Shakespeare and Marlowe, they both, we have no idea about their parentage. We believe that Shakespeare ran away from his village as his father stole the lamb of Mr. Lucy family and he came to England. Marlowe's parentage is very much unknown, very much, we are not sure about it. And moreover, after his death, his body was never recovered. So as you can see on your screens, in 19th century, in August 1819, Monthly Review, a magazine known as Anonymous Magazine, was published, and it was the first magazine which questioned the controversy between Shakespeare and Marlowe. So just because 1819's August, a publication of Monthly Review, we started questioning this thing. And if you have your ideas about Shakespeare Marlowe controversy, please write it in comments.